Okay, I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. My name is Austin Ambrozi. I'll let everybody introduce themselves, but I'm one of the co-founders of the AI company Doxci, and I guess I'll be kind of taking point on today's panel. The title of the panel is incorrect. The real title of the panel is The Future of Technology as it Pertains to Government and Enterprise. And I hope that you all enjoy the conversation. We're going to try to do things a little bit different and not sit up here and talk about all the stuff that we sell, and instead have a interesting conversation about the tech itself. So with that, I'll let the other two panelists introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody. My name is Issac Hicks. I am the technical co-founder of Doxci, and so I've been the one kind of behind the scenes actually making the tech. I have a very deep understanding of everything related to the AI. We're a little bit earlier in our progression as a company, so we don't have all of the fancy marketing and everything, but I'll just let the conversation speak for itself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen Orr. I'm the CEO and founder of Quasar Markets, the new AI that won, 4 awards this year so far. And of course, with our partners with Kiwi Tech and WebMob. And we wanted to change the world in a way that made AI actually work for us as opposed to just chat GPT and write me a song and a poem. I wanted to take the data that was inside of United Nations and WEF and Edgar and Fred and SEC size. And what we did was we took an AI and attached it on top of the actual databases as opposed to asking ChatGPT, just give me an answer. So, and thanks to you for helping get that started for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'll kick things off by saying that I think that the buzzword or buzz term last year was generative AI. I think that's what everybody started, circulating. And I think that this year it's going to shift to agentic AI. So I guess first talking point is, one, do you agree with that sentiment? And two, what all do you think that transition means?
Yeah, that's an absolute good point. Last year we all talked about AI. Sam was here, and we just didn't know what to do. It kind of felt like the internet at the beginning, right? What do I do with this AI? And as the machine started making charts and making screens, draw me a picture of this, and this, and what we found out was people don't really care so much about that. What they wanted to see was the deep dark underneath it, right? Tell me and show me how AI is going to make my life better. And the buzzword that I've always used is efficiency, right? How does AI make it more efficient for my life? In my case, I don't have much social media anymore because AI does it for me now, right? But they don't just want to see a picture. They actually want to be touching the machine. They want to have the machine draw charts for me. And one of the cool things about that is, and I agree with it, is that this year with Agent AI, I agree with that, right? Eventually, we're going to have our own AIs as our own personality, and agents will be talking to each other, right? And I think that's what you're working on now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've seen in the market, especially in the market of like these custom AI solutions that people want, is we want to go beyond just the simple generation or the simple I don't know if you guys have heard of vector databases, but the ability to ping, say you have a set of documents or something. But it's one thing to get information out of, say a set of documents, a set of emails, a database or something, but it's quite another to be able to autonomously take action on that. And in the same way that you have SOPs, the same way that you have training programs for your employees, the artificial intelligence has gotten advanced enough to program in these same SOPs, these same level of intelligence. And so a lot of the solutions that we have kind of go beyond the simple let's generate a picture, let's go find some data. It's like, what if you could read, a string of 20 emails and understand the exact dynamic of the client, understand when they're about to churn, and you could save that $100,000 account, that multi-million-dollar account, based on the information that's pulled out in a really nuanced perspective on the dynamic of the conversation. And what if you could take all of the web information that's also related to that client and understand, are they looking for a competitor? Are they shopping around offers? What kind of buying intent signals do they have in other places? And what are you actually up against when it comes to that? And this is really where the technology is moving. It's not just, can you write an email for me anymore? We're so far past that. It's just we haven't made that to the broad market yet, and that's not something that's really being communicated outside. But this is what's happening behind closed doors inside these companies that are really tech forward.
I think and I'm admittedly not nearly as technical as these two individuals, but it's kind of my job to help be the bridge of translating what goes on in their heads to what goes on in the minds of people that don't code this stuff day in, day out. And kind of the way that I think about it is I think that a lot of the dystopian perceptions of AI stem from people, like, oh, what happens if AI replaces me or replaces all of us, or what does that look like and whatnot. And that fear boils down to, one, money, but two, that there is work that people want to do. That everybody has some type of work that they like to do. And the part that I think gets ignored is how much work there is in the world that nobody wants to do. There is a lot of work that nobody wants to do. And I think that the same way, if we take something that's very familiar, like the automobile, it's like, well, you could frame it as, oh, that got rid of stuff that we didn't want to do, walking. And people would counter that by saying, well, no, I want to walk. I like to walk for exercise. And it's like, correct. You don't want to walk downtown to go to work, though. So it's like you can still exercise, right? You can still do the work that you want to do, but you have this technology that can get rid of the work that you don't want to do. And so that's how I try to subject AI. And that's the lens that I try to subject my understanding of AI through. And whenever I do that, I think about generative AI. That was the Chat GPT moment was definitely where it entered the public sphere of awareness, and that got rid of some of the work that people didn't want to do, like being able to write an email or generate text for very specific prompts and whatnot. And the agentic side is more task automation oriented, right? So it's moving more in the direction of furthering the capabilities of things of work that we don't want to do. And so in this transition of generative AI to agentic AI, I think we're also going to see a transition from reactive agents to proactive agents. Right. And so I would be curious to hear both of your perspectives on that and what that kind of transition means, the proactive agent versus a reactive agent.
Yeah, I want the thing to do my laundry for me at some point, right? I mean, exactly right. There's a lot of mundane tasks that we do every single day and that we don't really want to do. And I think that's where AI is going to really take off. A good example of that would be in the morning, we brush our teeth or brush our hair, all that fun stuff. But we don't really think about the news. We go watch TV. But what if the AI in our glasses and our wearables, what happens if AI becomes not looking at our phones all the time like this, right? And we get to the point where it's giving us all the information long before we even get to the breakfast. We already know what's going on in the news. We don't have to go read the Wall Street Journal paper. We don't have to go watch TV to get all that information. It's already in our glasses. It's already on our phone. It's already in our watch, and then it becomes integrated into our system. And the machine, through the agent AI, gets to know us as who we are. We like sports. We like weather. We don't like this. It will actually know who we are, and it'll say, hey, Steve, here's the Cardinals won today. Here's what the weather's going to be like, because I know you're going on a trip, so here's where the weather's going to be. And I know that you need to book a car because I've already done that for you. That's where I think Agent AI is going to be very diligent in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I kind of want to take a step back and just, kind of explain what we're really talking about when it comes to an agentic AI, because there's the AI system that has the call and response where, you prompt it, you get some kind of response back. Maybe you prompt it again, you get some kind of response back. And then, with something like ChatGPT, we saw the rise of a chat with memory. It has a context window, so maybe it's able to see 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 of the previous messages and understand that general context. Now, what an agentic system does is it is an AI process that is attached to a series of tools, all right? And these tools can do a variety of things. Maybe there's a tool that can read and write an email. Maybe there's a tool that can schedule a meeting. Maybe there's a tool that can navigate a website. And there's all sorts of different tools, right? Now, where things get interesting is when you allow the AI to run on a continuous loop within itself instead of having to do this prompt and response chain. So if you have a continuous loop that the AI runs in, and it has a couple of things that it checks, it has some form of state where it's like, okay, I can check all the emails, see if there's any more email information I need to understand. I can look at all the meetings and see if there's any meeting notes I need to help prepare. I can look at the schedules and I can see if there's any flights that need to be scheduled or if there's any logistics that need to be handled. And whenever we begin to put it on this loop and we have the ability for the system to really act for itself, this is when we really change the paradigm from having to have somebody who's directly interacting with the AI at all times, where we can really have independent actors that are contributing value in some way that you can talk to and respond to, much in the same way that you talk and respond to a normal person.
So going back to kind of the spectrum I was describing earlier with, less, the AI starting off doing some of the work that we don't like to do versus hopefully eventually in ideal scenario, all of the work that we don't want to do. The moving down that spectrum, right? So it's like generative AI to agentic AI. And then it's like, a reactive agent that responds to, customer service inquiries and whatnot, to a proactive agent that's, checking the weather for Steve before he goes outside, before he even knows that he wants to check the weather, right? That sort of transition, taking that even further, right? This is a category that I've kind of had in my mind that I've referred to as second order effects of AI. And if either of you have a better term, please let me know. But I've kind of been thinking about it internally as second order effects, where it's like, I'm curious about not just what the AI is going to do, but what sort of work is going to become available as a result of the work that AI does, right? So that's where I think it gets really interesting and where I think these big sort of shifts in society are going to come, because I think about it like a snowball effect, right? And I think it's not going to be just what it initially does, it's going to be what it enables. So like an example of that is maybe you have, let's just take something simple. Let's say that somebody works at a digital marketing agency and they're a copywriter, right? You might be able to get to the point where you have, and I don't think it's necessarily today, I don't think that all copywriters are extinct, but you might get to the point. But you might get to the point where you have an agentic AI that is capable of doing that job, right? That would be what I consider to be like a first order effect. Okay, you have in this company, there's 5 people and one of them's a copywriter. Oh, tomorrow now you have 4 people and 1 agent. Okay, but that's still the same 5 core functions that are being done. I'm curious about what jobs are going to be created. So, for instance, I think that the age of the software billionaire is coming to an end. And I think that the age of the hardware billionaire is going to return. And there's a lot of things that, that we could get into with that discussion. But like, just for example, we do a variety of different types of projects in our other company that we own together, Autonomy. It's a service-based company. And we're currently a strategic partner of a weapons detection company that sells basically fancy metal detectors, right? That can detect not just firearms, but they can detect knives and detect the size of the knife, and all different types of weapons on someone's person, and it won't go off if you have a cell phone in your pocket or a laptop. It doesn't. Just the metal alone doesn't do it, and that was in no way an effect of improvements in hardware. That was a consequence of improvements in software with the AI, with the cameras and the sensors that they had in the AI, laying on top of that data. And that revolutionized, what we know as the metal detector. And so, here pretty soon you will never see the standard metal detector again. And when people see that, they're going to see it as a new piece of hardware. Reality, that's a breakthrough in software, not hardware, right? And so the breakthrough in hardware comes as a second order effect, or what I've been referring to as a second order effect of this improvement in software that we've had with AI. So I'm curious what other second order effects come to mind.
Yeah, I know exactly what I wanted to build. I think when you helped me build it, one of the things that I said with the prompting was I wanted to ask questions, right? Let the user, the prompter, ask a question to GPT. But I also wanted to give them questions that they didn't even know to ask. So it would say, okay, here are the top 4 questions around, let's say, for example, the GDP of China, right? You ask that question. But I want to know what the effects are. How did I get to there? Where is GDP in China going up, right? All those effects. And then I also wanted to incorporate other users on the platform. What are they asking too? For sustainability, right? So that the machine doesn't have to ask 10 times the same question over and over again. So we set it to, okay, here's the top 4 questions going on, and send them down the rabbit hole so that they get a better answer to a better question to ask, and in a way, give them the better data to even pull from. And so we did all of that and made it more sustainable as well, which we thought was important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, it's like there's kind of two prongs to it, right? There's the advancing of software in order to be able to do things such as spot the blind spots of human beings, be able to gather more information, do other things that would kind of enable like a kind of augmented intelligence for the human being, right? And so there's this paradigm, but then there's also the paradigm that you were talking about where there's advances in software that actually are very niche and very specialized and end up advancing the hardware. So very good example of this, probably the most like out in the open one, is like what Elon's doing with Tesla. The whole thought of, okay, we're going to have the self-driving car, that's one thing, but what if we have the fleet of self-driving cars that can then be rented out by the individual and go do ride sharing on its own, and then that individual can all of a sudden just get more money in their bank account because they're not using their car, and their car understands it's not being used, so it goes out and generates some money for them instead. It's like these kinds of things are crazy, right? It's just like that's like unbelievable to
But
think
it's coming.
of such
It's
a thing.
here.
But it's here. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of thing. Like, it's like you go to a concert and the sound system can understand the sound reflection that it's getting and create the perfect mix all by itself. And then the entire team of engineers that was back there behind there, instead of doing that, they're going to be working on other things. They're going to be working on higher level production values. And we're going to see a rise in the level of quality of these different experiences, these different things that are all powered by the fact that we're having both this phase one and phase two, this augmented hardware and this augmented intelligence.
Do you think that NVIDIA is going to be the winner in all of this?
It certainly seems to be the case so far.
Yeah. So I think that NVIDIA's got a pretty good shot at it, but I really think that like an interesting middle market has developed where there's the ability to create these middleware solutions that take advantage of all of these base stacks, right? Because like, you look at a company like Anthropic and they have this amazing language model that they've trained towards narrative instead of training towards systematic stuff, which that's the main difference in case you guys don't know. That's Anthropic's about narrative and it's trained on narrative. And so, what's interesting is whenever you take systems like that and then you integrate all these other things, you do integration such as putting databases behind it, putting web searches behind it, and then you end up with some kind of middleware product that is far beyond what any of the individual technologies could be. So it's like you could take a chipset from NVIDIA and the agent stack from Bedrock and all of these other tools, and then maybe add a little bit of custom stuff yourself, and maybe you're able to create all sorts of different things. Like something that I've personally been working on is the idea of a strategic reasoning engine. So taking the concept of the agentic system and applying it to the reasoning level itself instead of applying it directly to making the decision about these tools. Because if you have a machine that understands how to self-reflect and metacognate at that higher level, then you can generate real serious strategic insights, and you can go through massive amounts of data that no human being could. So it's like, imagine one machine that has the same level of intelligence as 40 researchers and understands how the dots connect across millions and millions of data points that can inform your Q1 strategy or your next move when it comes to sales. And like, how powerful is that,
And the reason why I think that's interesting that you bring that up is because I think that we all know, or anybody that's in the space knows that that's coming, but sort of, by definition, it's incomprehensible, right? It's like it's going to reach a point where it's incomprehensible. So it almost makes it impossible to even speculate what that looks like. And I don't know, maybe this is me being lazy or opting out, but I kind of just choose to not focus on that part of it because I know it's like I'm not even going to try to speculate what superintelligence is going to do, because if I was capable of conceiving what superintelligence was going to do, then I myself would be superintelligent, right? And it would be sort of redundant, right? So I try to focus more on, what are people going to do? What are the lives of humans going to do? So just one more question on the second order effects real quick, and then I'll get off it. What?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so like something that we're doing with Doxci right now is we're processing millions of records for a government entity, and unfortunately I'm not at liberty to disclose which one, but we're processing millions of records that they've had for decades, right? And this is something where we are going back through and structuring all of this historically unstructured data where this government's been very good about keeping records. Everybody knows you got to keep records and whatnot. So they've, it's the equivalent of having, millions of pieces of paper in a filing cabinet, but they just sit in a filing cabinet. It doesn't do anything, right? And so now we are going back and applying structure on, and that was because it was never really cost efficient to, send people back. It's like there was always value to be had there, but the ROI of like the labor it would take to go to extract that value wasn't there. It's like they've known the value was there, but the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Now the juice is going to be worth the squeeze. So I think it's interesting. My question is, do you guys think that there will be more as far as the jobs that people are, or the work that people are transitioning to doing, do you think that it will be more of new tasks or more of tasks that we've known about, but just the juice hasn't been worth the squeeze?
That's a great question. When I'm always asked on the floor, Steve, what company should I invest in AI? And I always tell them the same thing. It's the companies that have the data. CRM, Salesforce, it's Amazon, it's Facebook. Why? Because they already have the data on it. It's Amazon. But the problem with that data is that it's, as you just said, it's unstructured data. And what we have to do is take the AI and attach it to that unstructured data, pull the data out, and let the AI replace it. And I think that's what you guys are doing now, right? I think that we have so much paperwork and PDFs. It needs to be restructured in a way that it's cross-referencing AI to AI. Because we're not all going to use ChatGPT. We're going to use Anthropic, as you said, and Llama, and they're all going to talk to each other. So those AI agents and AI itself are all going to have to talk the same language. And right now, they're kind of not. They're all having to pull, okay, well, you said Anthropic, right? It's a good answer there. It's narrative. But now we need to have narrative with generative AI onto it. So we have to attach more AIs to it. So you're absolutely right. It's about restructuring the old structure of the old data. Think of it like Oracle and those kind of companies. They better have to get in the game because right now they have old crystal reports, old data, right? They have to push the limit up a little bit, especially in the hardware section that you're starting in.
Now, do you think that there's going to be, because there's gonna obviously be new jobs created that we can't even imagine, right? But do you think that there's going to be a larger transition to people doing these new types of jobs, or a larger transition to people doing these types of jobs that we've known about that just the juice wasn't worth the squeeze?
Yes, but I'll also say, and this is something I'll say right here, I think our work week as we know it today is 5 days a week. We saw it during COVID where we all stayed at home, and I've been working from home for many, many years. But I think we have a 4-day work week. I think it becomes standard. I think we have less hours. I think it's. I want to spend more time with the family.
So you think people work less in general?
That's right. I think we should. We should have more social entertainment and engagement and being out there in the world a lot more. I think that's going to give us that time back.
So is it fair to say that you think that first what we will see is a reduction in the total amount of work that people are doing, the total number of hours?
No, we never slow down, right? we always have more work. We'll find things to do, right? There'll be another level. If you think about it, there's a lot of jobs that we have today that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? But yes, but no, I think we're going to see a huge change in people's behavior. They're going to want to work less, they're going to want to stay home more, and they're going to want to be with their families and being social interactions like this.
Do you think that we're going to get to UBI, and when?
Probably in the next 5 years, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. I think universal basic income is coming. Honestly, I'm guessing.
And, I didn't think that was, when it's big. It's a big issue in the New York mayoral race.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? That universal basic income? Like, come on.
Yeah.
We all got to work. But I think
it was a fairy tale before.
I think it's coming within 5 years.
Now it's looking like a necessity.
At least something, right? There'll be some, not like a full pay. But
yeah. I think the way that it'll start is I think that unemployment benefits will go through the roof, and I'm really unsure. I'm really curious of how that's going to look. On the one hand, it's like maybe they ask you to submit some sort of proof that you are unemployed by way of AI, and so then you get some sort of percentage of what your old salary was, or maybe it's just unemployment for all goes up. I'll be very curious to see how that progresses.
Yeah, and like what's really interesting is this concept of absolute abundance, right? Because like there's like some very fundamental paradigms that everything is built on that are kind of built around the comparison of resource allocation, right? If you look at capitalism as an example, it's like that's really about what is your comparative level of resources compared to everybody else's level of resources. But whenever the resources are so abundant that it doesn't matter whether you have like 100, 1,000, a million, whatever, because anybody can have as much as they want, then what does that base economic system even look like? What is the exchange
Star
of
Trek.
value? You know,
Star Trek.
pretty much.
And and there's a certain level of it that'll never be achieved, right? Because we can't give, even if we have the means to, we can't give everyone a private jet, right? Probably just not a good idea. And you know what I mean? Probably won't be giving everybody their own super yacht, right? So there was going to be thresholds on what people are allowed to have, and kind of the way that I explain this to people, because again, I feel like this very quickly drifts into dystopian perspectives of the future, and it's like it's not that the technology is going to handcuff us on the total number of resources that we're allowed to have, right? It's not like it's going to get that dystopian. It's that there is already, whether through physics or whatever you want to say the bottleneck is, there's already a limit on the total number of goods or resources that we could physically have, and it's just the AI is going to enable us to hit that ceiling quicker instead of waiting. You said that you had a question. I wanted to. Okay, go for it.
First of all, you talk about having an AI agent. So when it comes to data, people think about privacy, being decentralized or centralized. Have you got any solution for this? This is the first one. The second thing is that AI must know your every feeling. For example, you're searching for renting a car for 3 days. Suddenly, something happens in your mind and you want to cancel it. But your agent has already rented the car and you have already paid from your credit card and it's gone, non-refundable. So these will be the problems. So how are you going to fix it? Is it going to
So I would say for
running something?
I was asked that early about Neuralink earlier today. Look, privacy 20 years ago is not the same as privacy today. We have to have laws to protect that, right? And we will continue to have laws, but the laws, the GDP laws in Europe are different than the laws in the United States. And I just left Japan. Their laws are really strict. But in the future, no, your privacy will probably not be as much as it is today. It just isn't going to be, because why? We've already given up our privacy. That's right. You've already given Facebook, Amazon, CRM. You've given them all your data anyway.
Privacy was gone a long
Been
time
gone.
ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's always
It's gonna get
interesting
worse.
to me to see that the standards for technology are higher than the standards for humans, right? Like the perfect example of this is like a Tesla is less likely to crash than a human driver. But the second that a Tesla crashes, oh my gosh, people are up in arms. They're enraged, right? Because
But insurance companies love it because
they do.
They're going to be gone if
right.
cars work.
Well,
out.
I mean, but I mean, it's the same sort of thing with like the question you asked about, like what happens when the AI already booked the car or whatever, and it's non-refundable. It's like, well, if you booked the car yourself and it was non-refundable, you're in the same situation. Yeah.
I changed my mind, but I didn't talk to the AI to understand that, okay, I'm changing my mind. Don't do it tomorrow morning before I wake up.
Oh, so in this scenario, you would have changed your mind before you yourself would have done it, but
So I think the response is that the transition period is not going to be infallible, and that there will be drawbacks, and there will be things that are imperfect, and there will be places where the new state of affairs is worse. But I think that the overall state of affairs is going to be so much better that the sacrifices that get made will be made, and not all of them will be great, but that will be the reality that we live in, and at a certain point, it's somewhat out of our control.
an axiom that I come back to a lot with this topic is that with every new breakthrough in technology, there have been both good scenarios and bad scenarios, right? So like the hammer, right? The hammer was used to, build roofs, but it was also used to hurt people. But luckily, I would think that as far as to my knowledge, there have been far more roofs built with hammers today than people murdered with hammers.
I wanted to continue, but we don't have time for this.
I'm here. We're doing talk.
So much.
OpenAI recently released a 15-page. I forget the name of it, but their 15-page economic blueprint on the future of AGI and whatnot. And in that,
A response for him from a legal perspective. I'm a lawyer.
oh, go for it.
So the question you asked, lawyers, when you're drafting laws, there is something called the general and exceptions. So what you ask falls under the exceptions. So it's up to the framers of the laws at the time, that's the lawmakers, the parliament, that have to have all these scenarios in mind, that in the event that something like you've asked happens, you've booked, the AI has booked, let's say
That was a simple question, a simple example.
So probably you would get a refund, or you can work it out, like they can reschedule, something like that. So it's about how you draft the agreement and the laws backing that up. It's that simple.
Thank you so much.
No, we're running out of time here, so I'll try to bring us to a close with this question, and that is, what I was getting to with in that 15-page blueprint that OpenAI put out. I'm not sure who wrote it, but we'll just say Sam. Sam drew comparisons to the onset of the automobile industry and how other countries at that time enforced some very strict regulations, whereas this is a car, this is very dangerous. We have to make sure nobody gets run over by the car. So we're going to have a human walk in front of the automobile and wave flags so that everybody knows that a machine is coming, right? And it's like, well, that caused the car to only be able to move at 4 miles an hour, kind of defeats the purpose of a car, right? And America at that time did not impose those strict regulations and consequently became a Goliath in the automobile space, and drew comparisons of the automobile industry to artificial intelligence and whatnot. Do you both agree with that comparison, and do you think history repeats itself?
So I think that there will be probably a couple pretty bad things that happen. There will. And that's just inevitable. And those bad things were going to happen regardless. It was just what was the mechanism by which they were going to happen. And there's this big fear culture around artificial intelligence that I feel is somewhat misinformed. But the second one of these bad things happen, or the second that there's some kind of rogue AI kind of situation, people are going to panic and it's going to be a mess. But that is more a consequence of the deficiency of human emotion than it is a consequence of the deficiency of technology.
To stick with your analogy about the car, it took 40 more years to build the interstate highway system. So when you look at it from that perspective, how the acceptance of the car was just for the rich, right? And how they got around the cities. Then it became, well, I'm now able to live a little further out, right? I'm able to now go from city to city, go visit my aunt and my uncle. In the AI side of things, I think we're still, as a baseball analogy here, we're still not even in the first inning. We're just beginning to touch it. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see that, as I have said it many, many times in the past, what has separated people has been money. But in the future, what's going to separate us is data. Who has it and who doesn't, right? And with that data is what they do with it. And how we go to the next level of the AI agents and how we go to the next level of the AI, I think the speed of how we get there is not going to be a year from now. It's going to be 6 months. And every 6 months, we're going to look back and say, hey, how far have we come? Have we actually done that AI agent that does my laundry? Have we actually done that AI agent where it goes to changes my car out, right? I think we're probably within 5 years of actually probably having a human robot in your house. We already have Roombas, right? And you have little things that you're already using. We have AI, believe it or not, AI toothbrushes now, right? It's going to be something that's going to be part of your life. You're just going to have to live with it like we do the internet today. But I think the speed of which we're seeing this in is when it's going to get so good that the AI begins to make its own AI, writes its own code. I think coders will be a thing of the past soon, right? I think very soon you're going to see where AI becomes really, well, we know it's already awoke now, right? But we know that it could be in a position where it starts to write its own code, refigures its own self out, and makes a much better AI that we can't do. And I think that's the next level.
And I think that's a very exciting thing to think about. And with that being probably the end of our time, I'll go ahead and draw a close there. So I'll pass it over to Dustin. He looks like he's ready to say something.
I'm excited. You guys, that was absolutely fantastic. We are going to do now a very special MTech Fireside Doxci. I'm going to have to kick you guys off the stage. Austin, I'm going to ask you to stay on. Meta, can you join me as well? Meta, you can join me? And we're now going to do another panel discussion where, Austin, you're going to talk about artificial intelligence. We're going to talk to another gentleman here about the metaverse. And we also have two very special people, and I'll announce when they come on stage. So let's give our panelists a round of applause. You guys were exceptional. Thank you very much. All right, so if I can ask for some help to have one more chair put on the stage. You guys crushed it. You crushed it. So, So I'm going to stand here. So if I can get one more chair on stage, and I'm going to ask, so you can scoot in a little bit. So this is going to be a fireside on emerging technology. So if I can now bring up John Franchi, would you join me on stage? If I can give John a round of applause.
Hello.
And I'm going to do some introductions of who these people are. This is what I love about Davos Lodge is we are always learning. And since everybody is here, I'm like, why don't we just do another fireside and make it even more exciting? Michael Sherwin, would you join me on stage as well? Oh, perfect. Sorry, brother. That's all right. Michael Sherwin. And we might have to do a little share. Do we have enough microphones? We do. Do we have 3 or 4?
That's okay, yeah.
Got it. We share with them. All right, you guys are going to share. So on the stage with us, we have John Franchi. John Franchi, 30-year. Now, here's the cool thing. 30-year veteran, the Central Intelligence Agency, Station Chief. John here at the end. Let's give John a round of applause. Next to him, we have Michael Sherwin, Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. This is the guy prosecuting on the law side of things. Now we have Meta, our metaverse AI expert. Let's give him a round.
Thank you.
And Austin, who you met before. So I like emerging technology. It's fun. I know you two as well. But you two, over the years, are focused on the other side of it. So we heard from Austin and Isaac and the other gentleman on stage regarding artificial intelligence, the good. I want to kind of talk about some of the problems, but I first got to understand, how do I fit in? So I'm going to start with Austin, artificial intelligence. I have a small company. How do I fit in?
As your small company being a small AI firm?
No, just a small company that wants to bring AI into my
your
business.
company? I would say that it depends on the nature of the business and the industry that you're in. But generally speaking, the smaller the better. I'll start with the most ubiquitous use case. I think the most ubiquitous use case is training and upskilling, because a lot of people, especially when we're talking about very seasoned, decorated individuals, there's probably not an AI out today that can do your job as good as you do it, or your job as good as you do it. I'm sure, right? Okay. So, but the flip side is, John, who just graduated college last week, he doesn't really know a lot about the real world. He doesn't know a lot about the workforce. And if you want John to rise to the occasion, rise to the potential that he can be, you need to teach him things. And there are better things for you to do with your time than spend all day holding John's hand. And so I think that is a perfect example where, if you want to make someone better, you have to give them something that they've never done before, something that's above their pay grade, something that's above their current skill set, right? And they are going to mess that up. Just, no one's going to get it perfect on the first try, right? So the goal isn't for John to, work with an AI and be at your level tomorrow. The goal is for John to just gradually improve as much as John can get. But there's a better use of time than you guys being the one to, escort or be the liaison during that process. And AI is probably better than John at that new position that John's never done before. The AI is not perfect. It's not where you guys are, but it's above where John is. And that helps John get better and move in the right direction. So I think that training and upskilling is something that any company can use with junior hires. And then beyond that, I think it depends on a more industry specific look and, case by case scenario. That's my response.
So in terms of central intelligence then, or intelligence worldwide, how do you stay ahead when these technologies are advancing so quickly?
Well, you really can't. I mean, it's adapting and it's trying to leverage it as much as you can. Intel's hard. I mean, and what we've seen as the technology has gotten better and better and better over the years, human intelligence actually is what people rely on. So you have to have a combination of the technical skills and the human skills to be able to collect the intelligence that you need to have. That's really the issue. I mean, I think we've seen numerous intelligence failures over the past years, and those have been because countries, entities have relied too much on technology to help them along. Now, the training piece and things like that, sure. I mean, it could be helpful in those cases, but I know too, a lot of it is person to person. If you're trying to get the real keys to the kingdom, those aren't going to be held on a document or in a mainframe. They're going to be held by a person, and you have to get access to that person, and that's where you have to be able to complement it. So Intel can benefit a lot. It's not going to stay ahead of it, but it can stay on track with it. And I think the biggest challenge there is governments, right? Government bureaucracies often have a hard time incorporating the latest and the greatest. They always seem to come to the dance a little bit late. So.
I realized shortly after that I should have used a different name for my junior hire. It's a common name,
It's okay.
John.
You want to call me Junior? I'll take it, man.
That's exactly what I was going.
I need all the help I can get these days.
Michael, what do you think?
So, look, from a law enforcement perspective, the FBI, Interpol, DOJ has been using AI more and more. And look, it's a double-edged sword from everything from weapon trafficking to drug trafficking, crimes, violent crime. Through AI, they're able to develop patterns, and they're able to develop patterns, for example, where clusters of weapons may be illegally purchased and the flow of those weapons, to Central or South America. Same thing with like precursor chemicals, from China or Asia or other locations that are getting into Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, tracking those routes, identifying companies that are associated with those precursor chemicals. So that's all really good, and the FBI is able to now build databases and it's almost scary, like the Minority Report, they're almost able to set up patterns of where potential crime is going to happen or where potential criminal activity is going to happen based upon these analytics. So that's, I guess, the negative side. And, there's also inherent bias in that, too. For example, if the FBI is doing a cluster of AI-analyzed violent criminal activity, a lot of that does happen in inner city, and some of that can be viewed as inherent bias. And if there's an increased law enforcement, presence based upon those AI analytics, is that, bringing some inherent bias into that policing? So I guess what I'm trying to say in summary is AI is now being used by, very sophisticated law enforcement organizations, from the UK to the United States. It's been very effective, but, there are some inherent dangers in, relying on them.
Anything you'd like to add?
Actually, the way that I'm seeing AI and this kind of stuff is it's totally different.
That's fair. That's fair.
The way that we are working on AI is totally different. And I know the first question that you had, when somebody wants to start one project with the AI or without the AI, from the scratch, what exactly they have to do. I can talk about this a lot, and about this subject.
Something that I find very interesting is that sort of the common school of thought in my neck of the woods is that the most advanced tech starts in government, and then it makes its way to PhDs and whatnot, and then it makes its way to consumers. And I have a million questions that I want to ask the two of you. I don't know how much I'm at liberty to ask or how much you're at liberty to disclose. So let's just not think about the fact that I think the CIA has all kinds of tech that most people don't know about. Let's think about other governments, other countries, no one in particular. Based off your careers, what do you think about the following premise that governments have historically had access to the most advanced technology, but now we are reaching a point where technology is progressing so fast and so rapidly in so many iterations in such a short amount of time that there are now instances occurring where some kid in his basement is coming up with something that government has never considered before. Do you think that that's a fairy tale, or that that's something that's actually really happening right now?
I mean, look, I think you see it right now. Look, in 1953, You couldn't have a private company develop rockets. Now you have SpaceX. You only had NASA because that you needed massive amounts of money, and you didn't have the types of hedge funds you had in 1955 that you had in 2025. So private pools of money could fund this technology. You know, GPS in the 70s and 80s, that could never have been based upon, you know, private actors, where now you have Starlink. So I think the fact that you have private actors that have access to really deep pools of money feed that innovation. And I think that does kind of challenge the narrative that, you know, all of these, the next wave of technologies are going to come from the government. I still think, you know, and John could talk to this, I think that they still have a significant edge. But look, no Bucks, no Buck Rogers. And now that private actors could be funded independently, I think that's going to really challenge the narrative we've seen over the past 50 years.
Well, another way to look at it too is it democratizes the technology, so you don't have to be a superpower to have superpower capabilities to totally devastate another country or another person, right? And I think we saw that with Pegasus. That Pegasus system,
NSO, yeah.
right? NSO system, right? Where they were selling it to governments that didn't have that innate technology in their countries, but it gave them a vast capability to do collection on all kinds of people. So now, instead of just worrying about superpowers, you know, the U.S. and Russia and China and, you know, the major powers of the world, you got to worry about like Guinea-Bissau. You know, if they're pissed off at you, like they can get whatever, they can buy the technology. It's all available. And I think one of the challenges to governments is staying in front of that, understanding where the technology is going, so that if they have to put restrictions on it, or at least understand it so that they can be able to defend or utilize it for whatever purposes. That's to your point. It's going so quickly. How do you stay on top of it? So.
Right, and that's exactly where I wanted to go right after this. And I'm going to bring you into this here in just a second. So, is it fair to say that you do believe that that's a concern that people should have? People meaning, you know, normal civilians as well as government officials, and that the way that we combat that is through more or less regulation, through the regulations as the lever.
I don't know if you need to worry about it. I think you just need to be aware of it. Regulations, I think, of course, you have to have regulations if it's going to negatively impact on the people in your country or in the world, right? But I don't think you want to hold back technology, right? I think it's more of, you know, getting understanding of it and being able to move forward with it. Now, like the Chinese, they have these online competitions, or these competitions where they have people come up with all these different ways to break into systems, right? That's kind of like a negative way of looking at this. But I know there's different entities and different governments that do those kinds of things. The outreach to universities, the outreach to technology companies, the outreach to just really smart young people online, and then to bring them in to help complement what it is that you're doing, or just to explain it where it's going. Because, you know, again, to your all's point, this is a technology that is inherently good, and it will help us, right? But there's always somebody who's either going to use it to,
Right.
you know, whether to steal, to do whatever.
But there's limits to regulation too. Look at just the firearms industry. You know, for the past several hundred years, you could regulate firearms, where they're sold, how they're sold, other than at maybe gun shows. Now with 3D printers, you could manufacture in your basement AK-47 and use it to assassinate someone. So you can't regulate that. And that just happened with the United Health executive. So that was a laser printer. So how do you regulate that? Are you going to now regulate all 3D printers? So we're going into an era that's really, is regulation the way to really control these devices, or is it social, media awareness of what these dangers are? I don't know what the answer is. I think that's going to be a challenge for the next generation.
Now, Meta, I want to bring you into the conversation at this point. Are there, and admittedly, I don't know very much about your work. I just met you. Are there any regulations in place currently that affect your work, which obviously is, in a different area of the game? Are there any regulations that affect your work, and where do you see the optimal level of regulations, if you can quantify that to any degree?
Actually, in a new generation that we are talking about, the fintech, if we are talking about the new generation of AI, blockchain, metaverse, all kind of the stuff, let's believe it, this is decentralized. We cannot say there is a rule and regulation can make me limit. There is no limit for us. for the new generation, nobody can make anything as a rule or anything as a policy to make me limit, because this is the future. We have to believe it. We have to believe on blockchain. We have to believe on AI. So if we sit in a same table and talk about the regulation, we can get so many things about that. If we sit, we negotiate together. Listen, from the blockchain side, I'm telling you, when I'm talking about the blockchain side, I need the rule and regulation for that project that are coming and they're stealing people money. They're a scam. So if the government, if the companies wants to talk about this kind of regulation, yes, I'm agree. But now we are using AI and we cannot tell Russia you don't allow to use AI. Now Iran you don't allow to use AI. They are using. We have to find a solution for this. Everybody has a knowledge. One of my projects is based on a e-learning and metaverse and base of blockchain. And everybody from everywhere in the world can go inside this metaverse and take the last knowledge in the world. So what we have to do, I was thinking about that one. Even we create KYC token. There is a KYC token we create for our metaverse to do the KYC things. But is there really rule for KYC? Can I tell to the people, you shouldn't come to my metaverse because you are coming from that country? How I can know? This is blockchain. They're connecting to the wallet. And finally, I'm the owner of the website. I have to answer to the government. So this is the really challenge. So the rules is good for all of us, but we have to sit together and know what exactly rule we need and why we have to put some rules for and regulation for this kind of stuff. They are the new generation of knowledge. So we have to change our mind, and if we put some rules on it, we have to sit with the young people. This is the only way we can create a rule for these projects.
So passing it over a little bit here to Michael and John, how do you two view the juxtaposition between the public sector and the private sector with regards to regulation? Do you think that it should be differences in considerations, and if so, what do you think those differences should be?
You're the lawyer. I don't want to give. I'm not going to give a lawyer answer.
Okay, well then maybe we'll change the question from regulations in terms of to what extent it is used in day-to-day practice.
By the government?
Yeah.
In terms of AI?
Yes.
I mean, I think, well, I'll use the microphone. We're in the frontier period of AI, and really even internal protocols, how it's used. For example, still harking back to like the FBI, collecting massive amounts of data, in terms of, let's just say they're tracking precursor materials, coming from all around the world into the United States. You have all these databases with potential companies that are selling or transiting these materials. Now, you start to monitor those companies. That gets into a lot of sticky implications if there's no evidence of criminal activity, but AI saying these are nodes of potential activity. Now it's going again into you're going into a lot of really complicated individual rights issues. Do you trust and rely on AI? That's pretty, valid that these companies are the most likely to be, related to the trafficking of precursor materials, and then without, sufficient evidence other than data analysis, can you open an investigation, get a wiretap based upon an AI, metric? And those things have really never been dealt with.
And what does probable cause become?
That's a great question. What is probable cause? And I think that's what we're going to be seeing now, because look, traditionally to get a wiretap or a FISA intercept, you need probable cause of criminal activity. AI is starting to establish patterns of likely activity. Is that enough to get a wiretap? These are, I think, issues that we're going to be dealing with in the next several years.
Do you think it's just going to be a matter of people, I guess, fighting over it until there's what does that process look like of us reaching consensus on what appropriate etiquette is?
I think, look, it's gonna land with Congress, whether that's good or bad. I think that could be dangerous. And you're going to have civil liberty groups, ACLU, the Vice, really significant law enforcement, entities, and also tech entities that frankly want to sell their technology to the government for hundreds of millions of dollars. That may be, not sound jaded, but maybe they want to push their systems and hardware and software, over some of these constitutional implications. I don't want to sound jaded, but that's sometimes a reality. So.
I mean, no, as you guys are talking, I'm thinking like the one thing that pops to mind to me is trust. That's what we're talking about. Can we trust AI? Right, the information AI provides, the services AI provides, where AI is going, because it's going to continue to get better, right? It's not going to get worse unless we just walk away from it, which I don't see happening. So can we trust it for the things Mike's talking about? Huh?
We can monitor it. We cannot trust, of course.
Well, no, but you have to be able to trust that if you ask it a question, that the information's correct that you're getting, right?
But you do
And
have
if-
a human case officer too, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, you always have to validate.
The difference is we can't clone human case officers, and we're going to be able to clone, billions of AI
Well, and
agents.
some of them may be more, they might be quicker, they might be able to draw more on different things than a case officer. And will we eventually get to the point where we rely just on the AI to give us the basics so that we can then go on to something else? That's going to be really important. The other thing too is, look, we're talking about it as tech, AI is just tech. To me, it's more than just tech. Like this is it's changing our entire way of life. It's part of our social fabric. How do we deal with that? It's not like, it's going to become a system where someday we can't just unplug it from the wall. Like, hey, what's Alexa, play me some cool jazz, right? It's going to be something that we really need to be able to do our normal lives. And you're not going to be able to just unplug. In a lot of ways, you can't do that already. So how do we incorporate that into our society, and that's going to be, I think, we're going to have to put moderations on it in that way, so it's not just like it's a waffle iron that we can just put in a closet.
And admittedly, you two have been involved in government longer than or I never have, but you two. But so what I just said is true. You two have both been involved in government longer than I have, right? Something that I've been thinking about recently is what happens when we start popping up new positions or new departments for this technology, but then that technology is embedded within the other departments, right? Where it's like, does the AI department have say in the operations of the CIA because of the portions of it that pertain to that technology? Are there any other examples of conundrums like that you've seen throughout time, whether it be through emerging technologies or otherwise?
I don't think I've seen it yet, but I mean, I'm sure there are examples of it and maybe ones that I can't share with you. But but still, I mean, we're going to get there, right? It's going to be part and parcel of what it is, because we're gonna need to do more with less. That's all how government always operates. And so you lean on AI to help you, kind of bridge that gap. And then how do you go from there? And then what happens if somebody can take it down? That's the other question. That's what worries me. All us old farts who have those 6 pages of passwords in our desk drawer. We don't use any special place to store it, because we're all afraid we're going to lose all of our stuff, right? Because of the old days. But what happens if something's compromised in one way or the other? Then what do we do? Yeah, as a government, as an entity, companies have felt this recently. Companies have gone down. They've lost data. They've had to pay ransomware. There'll definitely be some kind of cyber security risk that touches on AI. I have no doubt. Criminals always figure out a way to make it work. And if the criminals are doing it, then there's going to be nation states that figure out how to do it. So we have to factor that into it as well. That's what I think. So.
And a little bit ago, we were talking about potential methods of mitigating these risks. And obviously, the first one that comes to mind and the first one that everybody talks about is regulations. But that's not going to be the entire story, right? So this is a good segue into my next point where, obviously, I own and operate an AI company, so I'm partial towards conversations about AI. But I believe that Dustin wanted this panel to be more about emerging technologies in general and not just AI. And there's a lot of exciting things that are happening right now that are not related to AI. So my next question is the rise of quantum computing, right? How, if at all, have you seen that in your day-to-day work, and do you think it's going to intersect with, do you think it's going to intersect with the work that you do, and do you think that the two of you think that it's going to intersect with, anything in government or government adjacent? We'll say we can start with Meta.
Well, I'm thinking about that. Yeah, of course. Why not? Just let me explain the position that about my project. Maybe you will know me better and you know my project better.
Please.
Yeah. Listen, guys. We are starting from scratch as a developer. We build up a metaverse. We build up blockchain. We make our own coin, our own NFT marketplace. The metaverse that we built is based off University City, Academic City, Famous Hall, and Land of Legend. We build everything for education. As a university, you can have a land for yourself. You make your own university inside. We are, as a university, will give you one NFT for a land. We'll give you, for each professor, we are giving one NFT as a professor, and the professor and university, they can sell the frequency to the students. And we have our own university, which is actually, which is the AI university based of AI about blockchain and IT and technology. So now we are in a phase 2. We're going to launch whole project in September. And for this project, we had an R&D time for like 3 years, 3.5 years. We saw so many limitations, so many approval that we have to take for from the blockchain side, from the metaverse side, from the technology, and all the university all around the world. We start from Singapore. I'm from Turkey. We start from Turkey as well. We went to Dubai because this is the only country that allowed us to do all of this stuff. So we start from DMCC in UAE. And then, of course, we need a fundraising. We start selling our NFT and token. We list some exchanges. So we went to ICO, IPO. We got the fund. We established the company and run developers teams, and now the metaverse is working. Now we are in another stage, and the very, very, very important things for us, we are mixing blockchain, metaverse, and AI together in our university, because all of our university professor is AI. And everybody can make their own AI as well as a machine learning AI. We are creating avatar with whatever you want, you can teach them, and they will go to the different academy or school and teach to the people. Imagine in our university, you can have like Newton to bring it to your university. Newton talk to the student and about Newton law. So this is something. Yes, exactly. I'm face on it. Okay, how I can control Newton, because this is gonna go for children around 12 years old. They are students. How we can how we can trust to the Newton that we create by AI, to don't tell to the people, to the student, because they are coming from blockchain. We cannot ask them, the professor or parents, they are buying the NFT for the student or children. Okay, they are coming to our metaverse. How we can control the children? Don't ask from the professor, from the AI. Don't ask something they shouldn't know because they are under 18. Yeah, this is a really problem. And from these panels, I was actually always thinking about this. What is the solution for this? You guys maybe can help me, but how we can solve this kind of problem?
All eyes on you, John.
All eyes on boy. I mean, what have you tried? Have you tried anything? Honestly,
Be honest. We tried because we didn't know. When they have the NFT, they are connecting wallet from the MetaMask. They are coming inside of or MetaMask or inside of the gaming area. So first of all, We ask them KYC token. But okay, they can go and create a KYC token in another blockchain by a fake ID. How we can control this?
I think that's gonna. I know that that happens also on like DocuSign and things like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the struggles. Is was this was this one? Was this document actually signed and all that? I know some people that were working on some technology like that. I think that's going to have to be intrinsic to the one as this thing rolls out. Again, trust, like a way to be able to trust that you know who's on the other end. Right? Now, look, there's always ways around it. When I was a kid, you could go out and buy a fake ID to go buy alcohol, right? So I could be, you know, so, come on, forget about it. But honestly, like there's always like ways to get around it, but you try to build as resilient a system as you can for the purposes that you're stating, right? And then you're going to need to have some kind of reporting mechanism in there to figure out, okay, this one wasn't accurate, this person, lied or whatever, and then you're going to have somebody policing. Who's that going to be? Will it be the Bureau, FBI? Well, probably not. Is it going to be some other entity? Is it going to be a company? Could it be Amazon? Could it be Google? Could it be AI, ChatGPT? I don't know. It could, but you're going to have that where everybody trusts in that entity to be able to step in. It's got to be international.
And I think the answer, barring regulations, of course, I think the answer to that about who ends up being the person or entity to do that kind of depends on demand in a way. Well, he brought up a valuable point about it. It could be private sector. Is there demand there? Is there, do the economics of the situation, make sense? Which kind of brings me to the next point that I think is a question that's equally applicable to all three of you is, a lot of people talk about all the great things that technology is going to do. And I think that we are quickly losing track of the human element of things. I think that's something that everybody would agree with. And really what I mean by that is that I think the supply side is growing quicker than the demand side. For the first time that I know of, and I don't know, I've spent a fair amount of time studying emerging technologies, and I guess we're going to arrive to a point where AI is coding itself, and AI is coming up with all different types of capabilities that AI can do, right? So just within that subset of technology alone, there's going to become all of these different possibilities of what technology can do, but that doesn't mean that the demand is going to be there for that, right? Like my vacuum cleaner doesn't need AI, right? Well, hopefully that clip doesn't age poorly, but I think that's the safe bet, right? So my question is, what, if anything, do you wish that technology could do for you today that you haven't really seen, whether that be through AI or quantum or the blockchain or whatever, or whatever it is that you do at work? All three of you have different perspectives on government and the private sector and your day-to-day work. What do you wish technology could do for you today?
I'm living with technology. But for me, technology just make more trust. That's it. Because this is very important. As I said, trust is very important. But people, they cannot trust to the technology.
Or using AI. Look,
Nobody.
yeah, we're in an era of so much misinformation because of social media.
Yeah.
Even in hard copy traditionals, how can AI filter out truth from fiction so the public, the world community knows what's fact or fiction? Because it has real world implications on wars and civil strife. It really does. And I think that's the biggest threat to democracy right now. I really do.
Misinformation?
Yes.
I think you're right, Mike. And look, there's almost too much technology. I mean, I'm not trying to undercut everything you all do.
Oh,
doing for
speak
a living,
freely.
but it's sort of I sit at home like, what else do I need? Like I have like honestly, what else do I need to? I get in trouble for my phone because I'm on my phone too much, and I'm not paying attention to my wife or my kids or the weather or the dog or work, and it's easy to go down those rabbit holes. So I think to me, what I worry about is the thing Mike raised, and you raised it in the previous panel, which is society keeping up with the technology and the impact it's going to have on it. Right? One of the things I learned, a number of years ago was I think it's 70% of men in the United States are somehow involved in the transportation sector. So if you have self-driving vehicles and self-driving trucks, then you've got potentially 40, 60% of men out of work, right? That's not a good thing. right? And you were talking about like I think the last panel about us was it like
Universal basic income?
universal basic income? That's not good either because everybody needs something to do, right? A lot of the problems we had during COVID were because everyone sat at home, getting the checks and didn't have to do, and had nothing to do with their time but drink and, just kind of muck around.
So is that to say that something you wish technology could do would be give people something to do?
Well, I mean, I think we need to think about what we're doing and how it's going to impact on the broader system because everyone's not a technologist. There's a lot of carpenters out there. There's a lot of people, normal, hardworking people who just want technology to make their lives a little bit easier, and then maybe to shut their kids up by giving them an Xbox. And then they're fine with it. I'm good, right? I don't need the latest, greatest, iPhone or gizmo or whatever it is that people create or a box that creates infinite energy, right? I mean, that's lost on, people from my hometown, I can tell you that. So I think we need to take a step back and think of it on a societal level as to what impact is it going to have, and are we ready for this? Not withhold it, but so we're not surprised by the impact it could have.
And I think you made a good point by saying that people need something to do. I can't remember. I think it was Warren Buffett. It might not have been Buffett. I think it was Warren Buffett that said that he was going to make sure that his kids had enough money that they could do anything, but not so much that they could do nothing. And I think that is a very powerful quote and something that I hope to internalize myself. On that note, do you think that there is do you think that everybody has work that they would like to do, or do you think that there are people that would thrive in a scenario where there is no work to be done?
This is a heavy philosophy panel now. I said this is a heavy philosophical panel now. Exactly. This is too touchy-feely for me. No, what it is, this goes to like human nature, are humans like sloths that want to default to doing nothing? I mean, is that the bulk of humanity? Do they want to default to that? And will technology allow us to do that? Then are we just putting ourselves into non-existence, that technology is going to extinguish the human race eventually? I mean, if that's the case, and it's possible in the next several hundred years or sooner. So I don't want to get all dystopian, but...
But that's the side of the fence that you're on? It's totally fine if it is.
Yes, whether that's some weird fence or not, yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's a very common side of the fence for people to be on, especially when we start talking about things like brain-computer interfaces and like what Neuralink's doing. Like that is, I believe there's a few Black Mirror episodes about that technology. But then you balance that out with videos of a paraplegic that can now interact with the world in far more ways than they could before, and it's difficult to strike that balance. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know if it's a case by case scenario or if it is an application by application scenario. But it does seem to be the case, at least from my perspective, that with every sort of breakthrough in dystopian scenario, there's an alternative perspective of obviously we should do this. I guess I'm curious of your perspective on that, Mano.
Yeah, actually, in my idea, technology do whatever we want. So, but just go back in a Corona time. You remember at the time of that virus, everybody locked down in a home. So there is a lots of idea came out at that time. The metaverse idea, the blockchain, cryptos, and e-learning. There is so many websites, and people they learned a lot from YouTube. So the technology is perfect for all of us, and all of us we need it. But we should know in the future, in my idea, people buy the sunglasses or maybe with something inside of their head, they will order food. They will go to the metaverse for learning everything. They will go to metaverse as a social media. There is no Instagram at that time. There is no LinkedIn. Everything gonna be in a metaverse. So in the future, who gonna control everything? For sure, AI. So they're all technology, and it's gonna happen. not in the next 100 years. Let's say maybe 6 to 10 years. Yeah. This is scary for all of us.
Michael and Meta, do you believe that universal basic income will come into effect? And if so, on what time frame?
Hard question.
That is, I'm gonna pass as a non-economist.
Fair enough. Well, I think that's probably towards the end of our time, so I guess I'll open the floor right now to any questions anybody may have other than that.
Looking at me, I'm the one who has questions.
You said in the last panel you had a couple other questions.
Regarding the thing that you say that AI is going to make people sitting at home doing nothing and like these trucks and everything do the job. So what if we think this way? How many hours a man could work per day? 8? 10? Okay. Other than that, for example,
I'm working 18 hours.
me too, 19 hours. But other than that, so right now in the United States, I think people buy Tesla. So at the time that they are at work, it goes, works in Uber, brings money back. But I agree with you because most of the people, they don't have money to afford Tesla to do that for them. Maybe they are only driving. I think it's, if governments do economic support to people, like giving loans, long-term loans, like, I mean, less interest rates, can help people work double, but with AI. Like, I work 8 hours, AI is working extra 8 hours for me. So that extra, I'm buying this Tesla for doing the overthink, and whatever money I'm making with this Tesla, I will pay back that loan. So it's not a bad thing, first of all. Regarding that printing thing, you said that someone makes AK-7, or I'm not familiar with weapons as you do. Think that someone has hostages in a house, and a kid is just locked down in a basement with a 3D printer, and can make a gun to go up and help the family. If there is some regulations on that printer, what happens?
That's a really good movie, actually. Wouldn't that be a good movie?
Whatever movie there is, it comes to reality. Augmented reality was there since the Terminator 1. Yeah. Really? Metaverse came from the Avatar, from the Matrix. So I think whatever movie you can make, it will come to reality in the next 30 years.
That's so scary.
And it's
That's a
dangerous
scary
because
thought.
most of today's movies about vampires.
They're not good. Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I was thinking, at the same time that you're talking, I'm imagining every like variation of the situation. So we cannot say, okay, some people use sharp tools to do the surgery, but some people use sharp tools to kill people. So selling the sharp tools, it's illegal, or depends on the usage.
Yeah, I'm not a member.
Yeah, Michael made it clear that he's deferring and leaving that to the next generation.
And AI
Actually, we can make AI identity like KYC, or make AI as a monitoring system, or we can make AI as a police cop. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Even in my metaverse, if I can make something like that, it's gonna be perfect.
Some sort of hash signature for
Yeah.
the origins of the action of that particular
Yeah.
agent. That's an interesting
Yeah.
idea. Very interesting
I think
idea.
you're going to start looking at AI differently. You're not going to look at it as something to be controlled. I think it's going to be incorporated into society, and we're going to be dealing with it on that level instead. So it's not going to be about how do we control the technology, how do we deal with it, and then how exactly, because it's going to adapt, and its uses are going to be adapting, similar to a lot of the uses of other technologies or other aspects of our society have adapted. And so laws and the regulations that we put in place have had to adapt to those new uses of them. And we have no idea where this is going to take us, right? We're talking about AI and vacuum cleaners. You know, we may have houses that don't need vacuum cleaners, like, moving forward. I don't know, you know, who knows where this is going to go. But so, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can't. You have to build a resilient system of government and a resilient society that can adapt to those things without cratering and collapsing on itself. And that's going to be the important part moving forward.
Getting harder and harder to control.
Very well said.
Maybe
Yeah.
if they control, there will be dark AI, like what we have, like dark web.
I heard so many things tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to echo that sentiment of we could
I
sit
was
here and
happy
talk
when
for
I got up here. Now what are you doing to me?
just to echo that sentiment about we could talk.
Something for you to think about tonight.
I agree. We could sit here and talk about this for 4 hours. In the interest of not holding everyone hostage to this room for 4 hours, I think we could go ahead and wrap up and adjourn there. John, Michael, Meta, thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.